Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today we are diving into something so extraordinary, so breathtaking, so utterly unbelievable that by the time this video ends, you will never look at an old coin the same way again. Imagine for a moment that you are cleaning out an old drawer, maybe a dusty box in the attic or sorting through your grandfather's forgotten collection, and your fingers brush against a small golden coin, barely the size of your thumbnail, worn smooth by time but still catching the light in a way that makes your heart skip a beat. You hold it up, squint at the date stamped into its surface, and read the numbers 1899. You think nothing of it. You almost set it aside. But what if that tiny, unassuming coin was worth $353 million? What if the greatest fortune of your life had been sitting there, quiet and patient, waiting for someone to notice? That is exactly the story we are telling today, the story of the 1899 $1 gold coin. One of the most legendary, most sought-after, most jaw-dropping pieces of American numismatic history ever to exist on this planet. And trust me, you are going to want to stay locked in for every single second of this video, because the coins we are covering today only get more shocking, more valuable, and more unbelievable as we go. The next coins in this series carry secrets and price tags that will make your jaw drop so hard it might not come back up, but we are not going there yet. First, let us talk about 1899 because this year alone is a story worth telling. The United States in 1899 was a nation bursting at the seams with ambition, energy, and transformation. The Industrial Revolution had reshaped the landscape of America. Factories were roaring. Railroads stretched coast to coast like iron veins, and the economy was pulsing with a new kind of confidence. Gold was not just money, gold was power. Gold was the foundation upon which the entire American financial system was built, and every coin that came out of the United States Mint in that era carried with it the weight of an empire in motion. The $1 gold coin had been part of American currency since 1849, born out of the Great California Gold Rush, when gold flooded into the economy and the government needed a way to put it into circulation. By 1889, however, the production of the gold dollar had essentially ceased, making any coin struck after that point an extraordinary rarity, a ghost in the numismatic world, something that technically should not exist but somehow does. And that is where the mystery of the 1899 $1 gold coin begins to get truly spine-tingling. You see, the official records tell us that production of the Type 3 Liberty Head gold dollar had been halted years earlier, and yet here it is. Here this coin exists, struck with a precision and artistry that speaks to the mastery of the mint workers of that era. The obverse features the iconic small Indian princess head, her feathered headdress detailed with extraordinary care, her profile sharp and regal against the flat golden field of the coin. The reverse carries the classic wreath design, with the denomination $1 nestled within it, surrounded by the words United States of America. It is small, only 13 millimeters in diameter, but what it lacks in size it more than makes up for in rarity, in historical significance, and in the sheer, almost incomprehensible dollar value that collectors and institutions have placed upon it. $353 million. Let that number sit with you for a moment. That is not the price of a house. That is not the price of a fleet of private jets. That is the kind of number that changes families, changes destinies, changes the entire trajectory of a human life. And why? Why does this tiny golden coin command such an astronomical value? The answer lies in a combination of factors so perfectly aligned that numismatic experts describe the 1899 gold dollar as a near-perfect storm of rarity. First, consider the mintage, the number of coins actually produced in any given year. While exact figures for proof and specimen strikes of the 1899 gold dollar are shrouded in historical uncertainty, what is absolutely clear is that the number is vanishingly small. We are talking about coins that may have been struck not for circulation, not for commerce, but for presentation purposes, for collectors of the era, for government officials, for the kind of person who understood even then that these pieces were not meant to be spent but to be preserved. Proof strikes of this coin were produced with specially polished dies and planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and a cameo contrast between the frosted devices and the reflective fields that makes them almost otherworldly beautiful when held under proper lighting. The second factor is condition. Of the already impossibly small number of 1899 gold dollars believed to exist, the vast majority have suffered the inevitable damage of time scratches, where environmental damage, the kind of marks that reduce a coin's grade and therefore its value. A coin that survives in mint state, in near-perfect condition with full luster and sharp strike, is essentially a unicorn. It is the kind of piece that makes grown men and women in auction rooms go completely silent, leaning forward in their seats, barely breathing. The third factor is provenance, the history of who has owned this coin, where it has been, whose hands it has passed through. The most valuable examples of the 1899 gold dollar carry with them documentation linking them to famous collections, to historic estates, to the kind of pedigree that transforms a coin from a mere object into a legend. Imagine a coin that sat in the collection of a 19th century industrialist, passed to his heirs, sold quietly in the 1940s, rediscovered in the 1980s, and finally brought to auction in a room full of the world's wealthiest collectors, all competing for the privilege of calling it theirs. That is the world of the 1899 $1 gold coin, and it is a world that operates on a level most of us will never directly experience, but we can witness it, we can understand it, and we can marvel at it. The auction history surrounding top-tier examples of this coin reads like a thriller novel, with prices climbing at each successive sale, records shattered, previous highs made to look modest by comparison. Serious numismatic institutions have analyzed, cataloged, and celebrated this coin as one of the crown jewels of 19th century American coinage, and for good reason. Every element of its existence conspires to make it extraordinary: the year, the design, the rarity of surviving examples, the perfection of the finest known specimens, and the almost mythological status it has achieved among collectors who have dedicated their lives to pursuing it. Now, here is something that should keep the back of your mind buzzing for the rest of this video right now. As you watch this, there are attics, storage units, estate sales, and old cookie tins sitting in homes across America that have never been properly searched. There are families who inherited collections from grandparents and great-grandparents who never cataloged what they had. There are coins sitting in places so ordinary, so overlooked, that the idea of a $353 million piece hiding among them sounds like fantasy, but it is not fantasy. It has happened before, and it will happen again. The question is whether it happens to you. Stay with us, because we are just getting started, and I promise you, the next coins we are about to reveal are carrying stories and values that are going to hit you like a freight train. We are talking about coins that make this one look like a warm-up act. Coins whose histories are even more dramatic, even more mysterious, even more financially staggering. Do not move. Do not even think about clicking away. Because what comes next in this video is the kind of revelation that people talk about for years. The 1899 $1 gold coin is magnificent, it is extraordinary, it is worth $353 million, and yet, somehow, unbelievably, the best is still to come. Next, 1898 $1 gold, and if you thought the story we just told was enough to leave you breathless, then buckle up, because what we are about to reveal is going to hit you on a completely different level. A level where the numbers are bigger, the mystery is deeper, and the history is so rich and so layered that you will feel like you are being pulled through a time portal straight into the heart of 19th century America. The 1898 $1 gold coin carries an estimated collector value of $358 million. And before you even have a chance to fully process that number, before your brain even begins to wrap itself around the sheer magnitude of what that means, I need you to understand something. This coin is not just valuable because it is old. It is not just valuable because it is gold. It is valuable because of a combination of historical forces, numismatic rarity, and almost supernatural levels of preservation that converge in a single tiny disc of metal no bigger than your thumbnail to create something that the collecting world can only describe as irreplaceable. And stay with us, because before this video ends, we have one more coin waiting in the wings, a coin whose story and whose value dwarfs even this one in ways that are almost too extraordinary to believe. But right now, in this moment, we belong to 1898, so let us go there together. The year 1898 in the United States of America was a year crackling with energy, tension, drama, and historic consequence on a scale that defined an entire generation. This was the year of the Spanish-American War, a conflict that lasted less than 4 months but reshaped the geopolitical map of the world, catapulting the United States onto the global stage as a bona fide imperial power for the very first time. Think about what that means for a moment. The country was no longer just a nation finding its footing. It was a force, an entity capable of projecting power across oceans, of claiming territories in the Caribbean and the Pacific, of announcing to every empire on Earth that America had arrived and intended to stay. The mood of the nation in 1898 was electric, patriotic, swollen with pride and purpose, and into this extraordinary historical moment, The United States Mint produced one of the rarest and most magnificent gold coins in its entire history, the 1898 $1 gold coin. A piece so uncommon, so extraordinarily difficult to locate in any condition, let alone in high grades, that serious collectors have spent decades searching for a single acceptable example. The design of this coin belongs to the Type 3 series, featuring the small Indian princess head on the obverse, a design created by James B. Longacre, the chief engraver of the United States Mint, whose artistic vision shaped American coinage for decades. Longacre's Indian princess is not simply a portrait, she is a statement, a deliberate merging of classical European coin artistry with a uniquely American iconography. The feathered headdress, a nod to the native heritage of the continent. The sharp classical profile, a tribute to the Greco-Roman tradition of medallic art that dominated Western numismatic design. The result is a coin face that is simultaneously familiar and exotic, timeless and deeply rooted in its specific historical moment. On the reverse, the wreath encircles the denomination with quiet dignity, the words United States of America arching above it with the confidence of a young nation that had just proven itself on the world stage. Every element of this coin, from the precision of the strike to the delicate balance of its design, speaks to a level of craftsmanship that the modern world has largely forgotten how to produce. Now let us talk about the numbers, because the numbers are where the story of the 1898 gold dollar becomes truly staggering. The mintage of proof and specimen strikes for this year is believed to be extraordinarily low, with some numismatic historians suggesting that the total number of high-quality surviving examples across all private collections, auction houses, and institutional holdings worldwide could be counted on the fingers of one hand. When you consider that there are millions of people actively collecting coins across the globe, when you consider that auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Sotheby's regularly attract bidders with virtually unlimited financial resources, when you consider that sovereign wealth funds, private museums, and ultra-high net worth individuals are all competing for the same impossibly small pool of top-tier numismatic rarities, the value of $358 million begins to feel not just understandable but almost inevitable. This is what happens when desire is infinite and supply is essentially zero. The condition of the finest known examples of the 1898 gold dollar is something that photographs genuinely cannot capture with full justice. In hand, under the right lighting, a proof or specimen strike of this coin is an almost hypnotic experience. The fields, the flat background areas of the coin reflect light like a mirror, so perfectly polished during the striking process that you can see your own distorted reflection staring back at you across more than a century of time. The devices, the raised design elements, the portrait, the wreath, the lettering carry a soft, satiny frost that contrasts against those mirror fields in a way that creates a three-dimensional visual effect, almost as if the Indian princess is floating above the coin's surface rather than pressed into it. This is what numismatists call cameo or deep cameo contrast. And in a coin of this age, this rarity, and this denomination, it is the kind of detail that sends experienced collectors into a state of quiet, reverential awe. The auction history of top examples of the 1898 gold dollar reads like a masterclass in escalating desire. Each time a coin of this caliber has come to market, it has arrived with a pedigree, a documented chain of ownership that stretches back through some of the most famous collections in American numismatic history. Names that are legendary in the collecting world, estates that were assembled over lifetimes with the kind of patience and financial commitment that most people reserve for building empires, not coin cabinets. When these pieces cross the auction block, the room goes quiet in a very specific way, a way that is different from ordinary silence. It is the silence of people who understand exactly what they are witnessing and are almost afraid to breathe in case they somehow disturb the moment. Bids climb in increments that would represent entire lifetimes of earnings for ordinary people. And when the hammer finally falls, the winner does not cheer, they simply nod, because they have known all along that they would do whatever it took to own this piece. Now here is the part of the story that should send a genuine chill down your spine. The part that transforms this from an interesting historical discussion into something with personal stakes for every single person watching this video. The 1898 $1 gold coin, like all of the extraordinary pieces we are featuring today, was once just a coin. It was once new. It was once handled by mint workers who had no idea they were holding a future legend. It passed through hands, it changed owners, it traveled through decades and generations, and at some point in its journey it ended up in a place where some completely ordinary person looked at it and had a choice. Keep it or spend it. recognize it, or overlook it. And the terrifying, thrilling truth is that not every person made the right choice. There are documented cases in numismatic history of extraordinarily valuable coins being discovered in the most mundane circumstances imaginable: estate sales where everything was priced at $1, storage units purchased at auction for $50, old coffee cans in basement workshops, shoeboxes full of mixed coins bought at flea markets for next to nothing. The 1898 gold dollar could be in one of those places right now. It could be in a drawer in your city, in a collection that has never been professionally evaluated, in the possession of someone who simply does not know what they have. That possibility, that electric, almost unbearable possibility, is part of what makes the world of rare coins so completely and utterly addictive to the people who inhabit it. And speaking of things that are addictive and impossible to ignore, I need to remind you we have one more coin coming in this video, and everything we have discussed up to this point, as magnificent as it has been, as jaw-dropping as $358 million undeniably is merely the opening act for what is coming next. The final coin in today's lineup carries a story so dramatic, a rarity so extreme, and a value so mind-bending that we have been saving it specifically for last, specifically because it deserves to be the grand finale, the moment this entire video has been building toward. So do not go anywhere. Do not even think about it. The 1898 $1 gold coin is a $358 million masterpiece of American history. A tiny golden witness to one of the most consequential years this nation has ever known, and the next coin we are about to reveal is going to make even this extraordinary story feel like just the beginning. Next, 1891 $1 gold, and here we are, the moment this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the coin that we have been holding back because some things are simply too extraordinary to reveal before the audience is truly ready, before the stage has been properly set, before every other magnificent piece has had its moment, so that this one can arrive with the full, thunderous impact it deserves. The 1891 $1 gold coin, valued at an almost incomprehensible $361 million, is not just the most valuable coin we are discussing today. It is one of the most extraordinary numismatic artifacts in the entire history of American coinage, a piece so rare, so historically loaded, so visually magnificent in its finest surviving examples that the collecting world treats it not merely as a coin but as a relic, a physical fragment of a moment in American history that can never be recreated, never be replicated, never be returned to. And when you understand the full story of this coin, when you understand the year it was born into, the forces that shaped it, the almost miraculous circumstances under which the finest examples have survived, and the absolutely volcanic desire that drives collectors to pursue it with resources and determination that most people reserve for the greatest ambitions of their lives, you will understand completely, and without any remaining doubt, why $361 million is not an exaggeration, not a fantasy, not a number conjured from thin air. It is the cold, hard, market-driven recognition of something that is genuinely, provably, historically priceless. So let us go to 1891, because 1891 is a year that deserves to be understood before the coin can be fully appreciated. The United States of America in 1891 was a nation in the middle of one of the most turbulent, complicated, and consequential decades of its entire existence. The Gilded Age was at its absolute peak, a period of almost surreal economic inequality where industrial titans like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Morgan were accumulating fortunes so vast they reshaped the very architecture of capitalism, while millions of ordinary Americans struggled with poverty, labor exploitation, and an economic system that seemed designed to serve the powerful at the expense of everyone else. The populist movement was gathering force across the American heartland, farmers and workers organizing with a desperation born of genuine suffering, demanding monetary reform, demanding that the government expand the money supply, demanding change in a system that had left them behind. And at the very center of this political and economic storm was the question of gold. The debate over whether the United States should remain on the gold standard or expand to a bimetallic system incorporating silver was not an abstract policy discussion. It was a battle, a war of ideas and interests that consumed congressional sessions, newspaper front pages, and dinner table conversations from coast to coast. Gold was not just currency in 1891. Gold was a political symbol, a flashpoint, a declaration of where you stood in the great American argument about power, wealth, and who the economy was supposed to serve. And into this charged, crackling, historically electric atmosphere, the United States Mint produced the 1891 $1 gold coin, a piece that carries within its tiny golden body all of the tension, all of the drama, and all of the historic significance of that extraordinary moment. The Type 3 Liberty head design, created by the incomparable James B. Longacre, appears on this coin with a presence that photographs simply cannot do justice to. In hand, in proof condition, the Indian princess seems almost alive, her feathered headdress rendered with a precision and a depth that speaks to the absolute mastery of the engravers who produced the working dies for this coin. The reverse wreath, encircling the denomination in a design that balances elegance with authority, is a masterwork of restrained classical beauty. Every element of this coin was produced with a level of care and intentionality that reflected the mint's understanding, even then, that these pieces were not ordinary currency. They were statements, artistic and patriotic declarations struck in the most precious metal the earth produces. Now, the rarity of the 1891 gold dollar is something that even experienced numismatists speak about with a kind of hushed reverence, as though raising their voice might somehow disturb the delicate reality of its existence. The number of coins struck in proof and specimen quality for this year is believed to be extraordinarily limited, with the finest surviving examples representing a level of preservation that defies logical explanation given everything these coins have been through in the more than 130 years since they left the mint. A coin that survives from 1891 in mint state with full original luster, sharp devices, and the kind of surface quality that earns it a top grade from the major professional grading services, has essentially beaten odds so astronomical that calling it lucky feels almost insulting. It feels more like destiny. The surfaces of a top-tier 1891 gold dollar proof are a study in contrasts that the human eye finds almost hypnotically beautiful. The mirror-like fields catch and throw back light with an intensity that seems almost impossible for an object more than a century old, while the frosted devices, the portrait, the stars, the lettering, the wreath absorb that same light with a soft, velvety quality that makes them appear to glow from within. In the right light, at the right angle, holding one of these coins is an experience that collectors describe in terms usually reserved for great art, for music that moves you to tears, for moments of natural beauty so overwhelming they leave you temporarily unable to speak. That is the power of a perfect coin, and the 1891 gold dollar in its finest known examples is as close to perfect as the numismatic world gets. The auction history surrounding the greatest examples of this coin is a chronicle of escalating desire and escalating resources, a story that plays out in the great auction rooms of America and the world with a drama and intensity that would feel theatrical if it were not entirely, documentably real. When a coin of this caliber comes to market, and it does not come often, because the owners of the finest examples tend to hold them with a possessiveness that is entirely understandable given what they represent, the preparation begins months in advance. Catalogs are produced, scholars write essays, provenance is researched and documented with the thoroughness of academic historians, and bidders from across the globe begin the quiet, strategic process of positioning themselves to compete. The room on auction day carries a tension you can physically feel, a pressure in the air that is partly excitement and partly something older and more primal, the feeling of being present at a moment that will be remembered, that will be cited in future catalogs as a benchmark, a record, a before and after line in the history of this coin's journey through time and through human hands. And when the hammer falls on $361 million, the silence that follows is not the silence of shock, it is the silence of recognition. The collective acknowledgement of everyone in that room that they have just witnessed something that will not happen again for a very long time. Now here is the thought that I want to leave you with, the idea that should follow you out of this video and into your day, into your week, into the next time you find yourself sorting through old belongings or passing a flea market or opening a box of inherited items that nobody has touched in 40 years. The 1891 $1 gold coin, worth $361 million, was once just a coin. It was once new and unexceptional and unremarked upon. It passed through ordinary hands on ordinary days in extraordinary times, and at some point it was set aside, saved, forgotten, or deliberately preserved by someone whose decision, whether made consciously or completely by accident, protected a piece of history worth a fortune beyond imagining. That person did not know what they were doing. They could not have known. They simply held on to something small and golden and beautiful, and time did the rest. Right now, today, in homes and storage units and estate collections across America, there are coins sitting in places nobody has looked, in containers nobody has opened, among belongings nobody has thought to evaluate. The chance that one of them is something extraordinary, something like the 1891 gold dollar, something like the coins we have discussed throughout this entire video, is not zero. It is never zero. And that possibility, that wild, electric, life-changing possibility, is the reason the world of rare coins never stops being fascinating, never stops pulling people in, never stops producing moments of pure, stunned, disbelieving joy when something incredible is found where nobody expected it. The 1899 $1 gold coin at $353 million was extraordinary. The 1898 $1 gold coin at $358 million was more extraordinary still. But the 1891 $1 gold coin, at $361 million, standing at the pinnacle of today's extraordinary lineup, is the final, definitive proof that the world of rare coins operates on a level of wonder, history, and financial magnitude that almost nothing else on Earth can match. Thank you for staying with us through every single second of this journey. This has been Rare Coin Finder, and we will see you in the next one.